welcome to another episode on Uncommon Humanity.
Yay.
So we'll be talking about youth, social media, and radical behavior. So I'm Carius.
And I'm Charmaine.
And we have a special guest appearance.
Hi, I'm Selena.
Yeah, so Selena's one of our youth leaders here in The Evolution.
Yes.
And she was a guest on our New Year's episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have her here today because she has some shocking things to share with you about social media and young
That's
people.
right.
Yes.
Very shocking.
Very, very. I didn't know all the stuff that she was sharing.
I know
actually.
that. Okay, which makes me feel very uncomfortable that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, but anyway, so Karis.
Yes, basically, recently I watched a documentary by Closed Up, and Closed Up is a new investigative video series by the Straits Times. And on their first episode, they talked about that is titled "Insta Sex" when teens become prey on social media. And in the documentary, we hear from 3 teenagers who have encountered sexual harassment, sexual assault as a result of interacting with strangers, with people on social media.
Yeah. So the first girl, her name was Pavin, and she has a following of 5,000 plus followers on Instagram. She's 19 years old right now.
Yep.
And she shared, well, because if you watch the documentary, right, you see actually she's been posting some pretty provocative, sexy
Okay.
shots of herself.
yeah.
And she's been receiving inappropriate comments from men that she doesn't know. Sexual comments about people wanting her to do sexual favors and stuff like that. Men have sent her really explicit stuff on her DMs as well. Yeah, and that one I think for me was quite sad watching because like when they interviewed her, it sounded like she couldn't 100% tell the difference between what is good attention versus bad attention. Like, I think instinctually she knows. You can see her feeling uncomfortable when she shared that she doesn't like it. But then I think there was one comment she made where it was like, but I guess it's a good thing, right? Because if they're giving me this kind of attention, it means they like me. Whereas if there's none of these messages coming, it means they don't like me as much.
Or something is
anymore.
wrong.
Something is
Yeah.
wrong. So that was very hard to watch. Second girl.
Yeah, second girl was Gia. So she shared how when she was 15, her photos were doctored and circulated online on Tumblr. And there were rumors that she offers sexual favors, and not just that, but her personal particulars, where she stayed, her home, her mobile number, all that was online. And unknown men started sending her unsolicited, like obscene photos, and a man or a stranger even followed her home.
That's just so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's scary.
Yeah.
Yes. And then later on, she found out like the person who leaked her like personal particulars, her photos and all that, turned out to be a close guy friend of hers.
Why?
What?
I can't believe it, this one always disturbs me. It's like those stupid like hate crimes in the US where like their girlfriends, after they break off and then the guy is kind of scorned and then they go and leak their private photos online.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then this is a close friend. Like what
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
But I also don't know what to say lah because she was 15. So I assume the guy was around her age also, her close friend that leaked the photos.
Probably.
Oh, wait, we don't even know was it a guy friend? It was a guy friend.
Yeah, it was a guy.
It was a guy friend. Yeah, okay, so the third girl, this one was really sad. Like, Kelly was raped by a guy whom she met on Instagram when she was 15 years old. And this guy was 17 and was supposedly a friend of a mutual friend. And she was supposed to meet up with both of them at the same time, but I think her friend didn't show up and then
Yeah.
she ended up alone with him and got raped. And I think the other sad thing about this story is this 17-year-old really kind of got away with it with just a slap on the wrist because they couldn't prove the rape. And then she shared about how her parents blame her for it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very, very tricky. Yeah. I don't know. How do you guys feel after watching that?
Honestly, after watching it and hearing so many stories before, I thought that it was quite normal. Not normal, but like, yeah. Like,
Yeah. So right,
Common.
guys, this was the shocking thing because we last minute asked Selena to come in to record with us. Because like, hey, let's get a take from a youth leader about what's really going on in the
Yeah.
minds of young people. And she has a little sis who's really adorable,
yes.
but she's growing up in the age of social media. yeah, so we wanted her take. And I think the really disturbing part was we already came in thinking, yeah, there's probably a gap between what we think is going on and what is really going on. So Selena not only confirmed it, but she made it worse. I think listening to
Yeah,
her
by
reaction
sharing.
to this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her reaction, and also she added on with more stories.
I know. Yeah.
And which is like very shocking as well.
Actually, why don't you tell us about that? So Selena, tell us about the OnlyFans thing.
Oh, okay. So basically, OnlyFans is like a social media platform. It kind of started out as like it's just something you can do, and then you can like people can pay you while you're doing something. But it became very sexual. It became very sexualized. A lot of people will like do show nudes and everything, and people
order
will
to
pay.
earn money.
Yeah, in order to earn money.
Yeah, but this has also been popularized by celebrities,
Yes.
right?
So basically, there's like J-Lo, DJ Khaled, and some Love Island. And then the crazy thing is they use this platform to earn money to one of them is to
causes.
support causes, like to donate to the Australian bushfires, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then downstream it's become really
Yeah.
problematic.
So a lot of the youth are actually watching it right now.
Oh my
yeah, which is basically like peer-to-peer pay for porn, right? Kind of almost.
but legal.
legal.
But legal.
Oh my.
Yeah. Okay, so that was very shocking to me. Like, I
Yeah.
think like for an hour after she told me that, I was like, what? I kept coming to the office like, what? Like, this is really going on. Yeah.
I mean, like, in my thought, I was like, huh? How can this be legal?
Yeah. But apparently it is.
Yeah,
lah.
it is. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So I think the thing is we're living in this whole new world situation.
Yeah.
And one of the other things we're going to talk about later in this episode is the Christian youth who got radicalized through watching stuff on YouTube
Yeah.
and social media. Recently in Singapore, who tried to attack 2 mosques. And he was inspired by the New Zealand guy, right?
Yeah.
The terrorist. So and I think one of the things that disturbed us was the Christian leaders' response in Singapore towards the situation where they were like, oh, this is never going to happen in our church. We have a foolproof discipleship system. We are like watching over all our youth and it will never happen. And immediately, I think our leadership team was like, okay, you are so out of touch. Like, seriously, we have a great youth church and we are worried about this situation about social media and our youth. And I just like, I think there's a big gap that we've got to be aware of and we need to bridge.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get to it, right? So with regards to social media, so Chansi found this disturbing statistic.
Yeah, it was in the documentary actually. They
okay.
mentioned like just in January to September last year, there were close to like 500 reported cases of distribution of like intimate images online.
Voyeurism.
Yeah, and 2016 to 2019, which is like the past 4-5 years. Yeah, they've seen like a 3-fold increase of sexual offences that's being facilitated by technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's really like this whole growing concern of like social media, like the effect social media has on like teenagers, on youth, and as a place where offenses can be made sexually.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the other thing, right? I find it very frustrating also because, well, not frustrating lah. This documentary, this episode didn't really cover the guy side of it as much, right? And I think with all this increase of cases, like there is some sort of disconnect because if you go to the MRT, right, now they've got all those like sexual predator ads, right, but they're always this like old monster uncle kind of situation. But if you look at the cases that have come out in Singapore in the last 2 years, they're all young guys, they're all peers, they're not dirty old men. And I think we need to be very real that there must be something going on with social media. There's not just socializing girls to be more I don't know, like insecure about their body and put themselves out there in weird ways. It's also causing guys to behave in a certain way and to have more predatory behavior, I think.
And to think like it's okay to be like that.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. So PC, do you think like social media is exposing like the problems that youth have? Because we were saying about how like for youth or teenagers, they kind of like look to social media for like validation, and then they kind of post about themselves, and then people like and people comment and people talk to them. So is like social media exposing like the insecurity that youth have, or is it social media is making the existing problem like worse.
Yeah, because we were talking about this in prep, right? And I said I wonder whether social media is not actually it's just exposing the insecurity. Because like it or not, I think youth when they're young, right, we're all insecure. We want to feel a sense of belonging. We want to feel acceptance. And unfortunately, this is the system they are living in order to gain acceptance. It's the likes and the comments on social media. So they have trouble differentiating what is good attention from bad attention. For example, especially when you have so many celebrities putting out very sexy pictures and therefore getting more attention, they think, oh, that's the way I'm supposed to do it too.
Yeah, because I was telling you like how it's concerning like even younger boys now. I don't know, like secondary school boys talk about like going to the gym and not for the sake of like to be healthy, not for the sake of to exercise or to train for NAFA, but it's the whole point is to look good, look buff, have muscles,
and to post thirst pic of themselves. I think it is.
I mean, like, it's concerning when I hear a 13-year-old or 14-year-old talks like, I'm like, you're 13, you're 14, you're growing.
They're already talking about protein shake at 13, 14 years old, and I'm like, huh?
Oh yeah, or like girls, or PC was saying girls talk about.
Oh my gosh, the
calorie
girls now
counts.
calorie counting at 13 years old, 12 years old.
Like,
yes. No man. Yes, right, Selena.
Yeah, everybody. Like a lot of youth is like going to the gym. And
oh my god, like when I was 14, 15, where got money to afford a gym membership? Like now they ask their parents for gym memberships.
Oh my god, that's just really shocking to me. So I just feel like, is it the whole social media that's making them crave attention even more, or?
Yeah, but I think you raised it too. You feel that it's exacerbating, and I agree, right? Because Social Dilemma has said it like there has been an increase in teen suicide that correlates with the rise of social media.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a chicken and egg thing. It's a confluence of two things. One is teenagers. When we're a teenager, we're at the stage where we're looking for belonging and acceptance. Then you put that together with social media that makes you want a certain kind of attention. Then you have an explosion of crazy behavior.
PC, I also think that the issue is also like on social media. Like all the influencers, they are like putting themselves out there. So they think that it's like a good deed that they are like putting themselves. So they never realize that they are like, their influence really influences people.
Yeah, they're not aware of their trickle down basically, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell everybody about your influencer friend.
Oh yeah, so I have an influencer friend, and so she posted something that like a nude photo of another guy. I think it's a friend, I'm not sure, but I saw it and then I knew that some of our youth actually follow her. So I told her like she should take it down since there's a lot of young people following you. Then she just said, oops, then she just took it down.
Actually, okay, let me first say, you were very brave to tell your friend, like, oh my god, take it down. Yeah, I mean, you weren't scared that she'll scold you for being a prude.
Not really.
Okay. No, but you see, celebrities do that too, you see. Like one or two, like, not all, the more fringe celebrities, like there are occasions I follow people and then suddenly they just post this full on, like, and I'm like, I did not ask for this. I did not ask to see you in all states of undress. Like, and I get really upset because I feel like now, last time that would be seen as indecent exposure, but now it's a completely different standard on social media.
Yeah, it's like maybe celebrated even.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you can
like
you're
a
so
freedom.
so proud of you to be yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so I think, right, we're living in this day and age, right, where youth are really becoming very desensitized to sex, desensitized to like, this is becoming their new normal basically, where exposure is normal, where getting attention through being provocative is normal, and they can no longer tell the difference between good attention versus bad attention. And I think one of the things now, like, I am concerned with, well, maybe particularly in the church, or even, I don't know, parents need to be aware that we're working with a different set of rules in today's day and age when it comes to raising a child, raising a youth in church. And the way to go is not to just believe that everything is going to be okay, or to continue to just let sex education, for example, to be only about abstinence, and you don't confront the reality of the fact is that even if you don't teach your kids about these things, Well, if you think that they don't know, they know a lot more than you think they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the age has really moved down. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you were saying, right, your sis now has sex education
Like
at
at
school at
P5.
P5
Yep.
Yeah, where we used to have it like
at 14.
15 about
14,
that.
15 years old. Well, mine only got very graphic in JC lah. Then I think for y'all, it moved down to secondary school, right? And then now it's in primary school already.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would say as a youth pastor, that correlates correctly. Because over the years, I've seen, like last time when I do counseling, it'll be like, oh, kids are experimenting at 15, 16 years old. And then now, then I think in the last 5-10 years, I go like, kids are experimenting at 11, 12 years old already.
Yeah, and the whole problem about how like where do they derive attention from is just very concerning to me also. Like I think it's very important for youth to recognize that lights and I don't know what they see or what they hear or what people say about them online shouldn't carry such a weight on
So
their identity.
I'm curious, right? Like for the two of you, when you're working with youth in our church, right? Have you encountered situations where you have to sit down and have a conversation with them about that the likes does not determine whether they are acceptable or not acceptable or good enough?
I think some of the youth do talk about that with us. Like they do tell us like they are so into social media. They need to remember like social media is not not
Remember there was
everything.
one boy that came to our church and then y'all said like he will track what time he sends out his posts.
Yeah, I think one of our friends, like he will, if it doesn't reach a certain like, he will take it down and he will feel very like insecure about it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can you imagine to have to deal with that? Like to live in a world where you feel like you have to market yourself constantly.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah, and the thing about online is also you're not marketing like the real self, so to speak. Like it's a certain persona that you feel that will be popular or people will like.
Yeah, exactly. So they end up having to feed into this thing. I'm trying to get as much attention as possible. And instead of finding their true self, which is what they should be doing at this age, quite frankly, like the natural progression of life as a young person is to find yourself. But instead, what they're doing is chasing after an image to get the most number of likes, and they're actually not themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Casey, do you feel like for youth, right, if they have healthy attention, they will be less like active on social media? Or do you feel like social media, the whole climate of social media will just inevitably exacerbate the problem, like the whole insecurity and the body image and everything?
Well, I feel like we can't create solutions anymore where it's removed from the world that they are in. And the world that they are in is social media orientated. So the solution is not to take them out of it or to expect that if you give them the right kind of attention, they are not going to need social media. The fact of the matter is we're living a day and age where you have to come up with a solution that integrates that situation that they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think one of the things that you have to do is to give them confidence and to help them to find security and life through real relationships versus their online persona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also another problem, like we were saying, is like not just for the girls or all that, but also the whole issue with like guys from the documentary. I mean, like they were talking about how like it's very common for guys to objectify women and then if not, people will kind of like outcast you or accuse you that you are
not guy enough.
Again, like yeah.
No, I think, but that one, I think there's a larger issue, which is in Singapore, there is no language for consent. There really is no language for consent. It's not taught in schools. I think Helena, one of the teachers in our church, right, said that they started to do that right now in primary school, which is to start teaching the kids like, oh, there's certain areas of the body you're not allowed to touch, it belongs to you. But prior to that, there has been no language of consent. So you got a whole generation of Gen Z and millennials who don't understand that concept. Yeah, because in the documentary, right, there was one guy who said, guys talk about this, that when a girl says no, it actually means yes.
Yeah.
I go, that's a very problematic attitude to have about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I find that pretty scary because then you could have a lot of guys who don't realize they've crossed the line with sexual assault and harassment because they think, oh no, a girl's no means actually yes. They actually want it.
Yeah. And then when
Yeah.
they see online, like all these people commenting or talking in a certain way, it just makes them also like kind of like, oh, this is normal. Like guys
Yeah.
talk like that and it's fine
Yeah.
when it's like not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the Telegram group that was like kind of discovered like last year, 2019.
Or the young guys
The-
who were part of
like-
the ring.
It was, is it the
No?
ring? It's about this Telegram group. Like, so it's another one of my friends. Like, she recently discovered that she was, like in one of these Telegram groups. Like, it was like a random person posted her
photos?
in the group, her photo in the group. Then she was wondering how like people found out and stuff like that. Then her boyfriend is in the group.
Oh my
So it was really crazy. And then she was
Are you
telling
talking
us
about the SG babes?
yeah, it's
Telegram
something like that,
thing?
SG
Okay.
babes, yeah. So I think a lot, actually, is really, really prevalent. Like, a lot of the guys are.
So
Wait. So let me clarify. So your friend found out that her picture got posted without her permission
Yeah.
because her boyfriend
Was in
was
the
following the
group.
group. And so the boyfriend told her.
Yeah.
And how did she feel about
She was
the
like,
boyfriend
why are you
being
in
that
the group?
Oh my
In the first place.
goodness. Why is he in the group?
Yeah, so I think it's like really a part of the culture.
Like
here.
this is to me, oh my god, like the level of like expectations of loyalty in a relationship is so low.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
That-
really about the guys objectifying women, I guess.
I don't know, maybe it's guys thinking like it's okay for guys to watch
No
things
lah,
like
yeah
that.
lah, that's a common
Like,
misconception.
yeah.
Yeah. The whole like guys will be guys situation.
Yep.
That's why one day we need to have our guys on and talk about what actually, because it sounds like even from a documentary that the guys were interviewed, right? These uni students
Yeah.
were saying that they feel pressured to behave that way, but it's not necessarily how they want to behave, which is hopeful.
Yep.
Yeah, but if the dominant
Culture.
you are
is like
in,
that.
then even good people start to behave badly, and then those who really have sociopathic tendencies become predators.
Yeah. PC, so the youth team have been having conversations about how we should talk to our youth about this in this climate. So I want to ask, like, how should we go about this?
So you all been talking about it.
Yeah, so because we were thinking like to talk to the youth about relationships,
Yeah.
boundaries, and then
Consent.
yeah, we're planning how to share about consent with the youth.
Yeah, but I guess it's a really tricky thing, right? Because at the end of the day, parents get the final say over like what their kids should know or shouldn't know, and rightfully so. But I think the problem is that like what we said earlier, the gap between how one generation perceives what's really going on and what they went through, the lens of how they dealt with sex in their generation versus
Yeah.
what youth are dealing with now. Okay, but then again, Straits Times did say, right, you had like that 8 out of 10 parents in Singapore are concerned about their children's use of social media, but they're stuck with how to deal with the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so maybe we offer ideas from that
Yes.
perspective lah. You know, I think one of the things that we were talking about earlier is that parents need to be aware that actually the most major influence in their child's life that is raising their child, unfortunately, is not parents. Yeah, we would hope that it would be, right? That were the most major influence, but the statistics bear out, the studies show that the greatest influence on a child's life or how they view the world has to do with their peers. And I would say now in recent years, then the tricky thing has become social media is also raising our kids because that's the place where they interact most with not just their peers that they know, but strangers that are their peers, so-called online. So if we don't interact with that in a realistic way, that our kids are being exposed to stuff that we have no control over, you're going to create solutions that honestly do not work anymore in the real context. Yeah, so actually one of the things I say is in Singapore, right, our culture is pretty top-down.
Yeah.
We're pretty hierarchical. And that means we need to, like, I think kids will learn the fastest if you give them a framework through school. So I know the Ministry of Education has been kind of trying to make strides with these things. For example, like they are covering topics like cyberbullying and teaching kids to report it, etc., etc. And I think that's great. But I think there has to be more comprehensive sex education in schools already, like that really deal with the multiple topics that are involved, whether it's consent, whether it's I think they should deal with body image and popularity and what is good attention, what is bad attention. Because I feel that when you give kids that framework in school, you equip them to deal with it better. Like at least they will kind of like think about what's been taught in class when they're interacting with social media. It's not a foolproof plan, but to me, it's better than nothing. I think they need some structure on a macro level. Yeah.
Yeah, PC actually, like adding on to that, like I remember when I was in secondary school learning about sexual education, right? I remember my teacher telling me about porn, like we should kind of get exposed to it, but then we must know that it's fake. So I don't know if it's borderline or
yeah. No, because I think again, right, porn is a tricky one.
Yeah.
Okay, as a Christian, I go like, okay, I know the research that porn is pretty dangerous, but I also know kids are going to look at it anyway. So then you need to do both, which is teach them the ideal, but also teach them how to interact with it, which is it is not real. Yeah. Because remember we were reading one book and then the study showed that boys, when they interviewed boys about porn, like majority of the boys assume that is how real sex is, but it is actually not. Yeah, so I think if you start with that and you start teaching them from young that is not what sex really is, then it's going to change the way they look at it. For example, they'll probably still look at it, but they will think differently about it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because maybe sometimes like parents would think if, let's say, we tell kids like from a very young age, sex education and all this stuff, maybe some of them, they will worry that I am exposing them
and
or
therefore
encouraging them and therefore endorsing like it's okay. But I think like what PC say, which is they already know. I think that's the first thing.
Yeah, that's the first thing you need to be real with. They
that
already
we know
know.
that they already know, even if we don't say. Because that's just the world that they are living in, the friends, who they're interacting with. That's the first thing. Then I think also, in fact, just educating them will give them more tools to...
Yeah, and again, the research bears out. The more information you give them that is realistic and I guess scientific, to use that term, like actually it ends up having a better effect, and actually more youth are more careful with sex and they avoid certain things more than sex education that's based in abstinence, where it's just like, don't do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, because I think youth will be more informed, right? If you
Yeah.
see, like before if they are in a similar situation, they are stuck in this in a certain like scenario.
Yes.
They know before that, hey, this is something that we went through before. So when they are in that scenario, they are more informed, or they are more ready to say, I don't know, say no, or to walk away from it, or to make a decision about it.
Yeah. So I know a lot of Christian parents, if they hear this, going to be a bit irritated with us. But sorry, that's the research.
Yep.
Abstinence does not help. In fact, they end up having more risky behavior and get themselves in more trouble than not. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pastor, I have a question, which is like, so that is what like schools and all that they can do to kind of help youth to navigate with online, right? But let's say if like I'm a parent, I'm a senior, I'm mentoring a youth, or I have a kid that I'm kind of parenting, then what should I do?
Okay, so I think the other thing is I've noticed with whether it's parents or leaders or any form of authority in youth's life, right? They tend to take to either extreme, which is one, either they try to control everything with rules, or you have the other, like I guess the newfangled, more modern parent, right? Which is like, oh, just talk and talk and talk and talk, but no rules. But I have found in my experience that it cannot be either or. First and foremost, it needs to be both. Youth need structure and rules, that they need clarity on certain things of what's acceptable and what is not, and why. For example, information. is very important. But on the other hand, they also need their parents to talk to them, because at the end of the day, sometimes what is driving certain risky behavior is the one for acceptance. And if they don't feel that need or their love tank being filled in that way with either parents or friendships or wholesome relationships, they are more likely to go into risky behavior. So I feel parents need to do both. They need to provide structure. They also need to learn to talk. And then there's a third factor, which we discussed, which is it depends on the youth's personality also.
Yeah.
Some youth are just, their personality is more rebellious. Some youth are more obedient and rule following. And depending on how that youth is, you have to tweak in between those two poles. But both are necessary. It's just that how you do it is very important. Yeah. So I just think parents need to straddle both, and they also need to kind of cater the strategy to their kid.
Yeah, because we were saying that even with regulation, it's very tricky also, because like nowadays we don't know who the youth is hanging out with.
Yeah.
Because like we were saying in the past, maybe when I was younger, like my mom or our parents can see who you're exactly hanging out with, where you are at, like physically, and then they can kind of like restrict or have some rules like, okay, get home at a certain time, and then let's hang out this week and stuff like that. But then with online, it can be very tricky to regulate.
Yeah, because you don't know what they're watching.
Yeah.
Last time, like my parents, when my grandmother was raising my mom, my grandmother was a housewife. So she's there to keep an eye on the kids all day long. Then when it came to my mom's generation, it became the latchkey parents, right? Because both parents are working all the time. They cannot see where their kids are. But at least there wasn't social media. So you kind of know, okay, they're hanging out with these people from school or whatever, that kind of thing, and you know. But now you come to our generation, it's like, oh my God, like even if you keep the kid at home, they have access to everything on their smartphone and you don't know what they're watching and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even Netflix, like verification code is useless.
Yeah.
They can just watch anything. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking like, if I'm a parent, would I just like not let my kid use the Instagram or use social media?
Remember we were saying today, I approve of this particular tactic some schools are implementing, which is some schools have started having lockers for phones. And the kids, the moment they come to school, they have to lock the phone in school and they have to stay off the phone during school hours and during recess, so they have to interact with their friends and then they get their phone back. I feel like that is a fantastic like structure and rule. No, can you imagine?
All the youth will be like, no.
I know. Yeah, but instead of like in the classroom where they're angsty, like trying to sneak a look at their phone, right? They know that, okay, from this time to this time, my phone is locked away. There's nothing I can do about it. And so they get used to it, especially if you're there at school Monday to Friday, then you start to get used to being away from your phone. So instead of being addicted to your phone, you accept that, wow, you can actually live without your phone for a couple of hours. And I feel that actually does something to their brain too, because it sets a pattern that it's okay to be without my phone. And they are forced to, during recess, do the normal thing, which is hang out with your friends instead of look at the screen. Yeah, frankly, if we could do that in church, I would. Put lockers. Lock your phone before you come to service. And then when you're in service, just listen to sermon. Just be with God. And then get your phone back after service. No, because when we do the social media detox every year, everyone says their anxiety level drops. They notice that they're addicted to their phone. And by week 3 or 4, they feel better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then after the first 2 weeks, we go back to our phone. Like, all of us like, oh my God. We're like having like, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. PC, I saw the statistics, right, from Straits Times, right? They were saying that youth, I think they have access to social media like starting from 7 to 12. I'm just like, I don't know though. I mean, like there isn't a right age like to for youth to have mobile, like to have access to online. But I don't know. I'm very
I think, okay, the tricky bit is that now for them, you have to bear in mind that it's not as simple as taking away the phone, because the wanting to fit in is a big factor. And now having a phone is fitting in. You're weird as a kid. You might get bullied or teased if you don't have a phone. So I don't think completely taking it away is option. That's why I say I think locking it away for a certain period of time is important. I think it's important for our youth to, for example, after church, if I see them on their phone, I'm like, hey, put away your phone. When we're eating together, let's just be in each other's company and don't look at the phone. And if we can get them to a point where they can put it down on their own and not look at it during the day, like just having those pockets during the day where you don't have that, like where you're forced to be with people.
Yeah.
Or even don't watch the TV on your phone. Watch the TV, the room with the whole family. Like just little things to be more healthy about it, I think is the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, I have one more question about having conversations. Like you were saying about how parents needs to kind of have conversations with their kids to work on their confidence or like on their struggle so that their kids can really trust their parents. Like when anything happens, they can run to their parents.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask this question, which is like how do you strike that balance whereby like sometimes our parents can say things that make the kid feel or rather make us feel like more insecure.
Okay. Okay, I think first and foremost, right, if you're a parent but you haven't dealt with your own insecurity, you're going to project that insecurity. Your kid can sense it and your kid will pick it up. So if you're insecure about your body, chances are you're going to pass it on to your kid. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be perfect and deal with it, but if you can be open about that conversation where you can say to the kid, I struggle with that sometimes too. I don't know, for example, if I talk to the leaders now, I go like, sometimes being a pastor is very stressful in this day and age because you're expected to look a certain way and dress a certain way to be cool and to be hip. Like there's that certain culture in the contemporary church. Then you alleviate the pressure of like, hey, I'm working this through now and I know you're struggling with it too. And immediately the kid feels less alone. And they're aware that that's not how I should be living my self-esteem. Yeah, so it's not about being perfect about it. But of course, parents have to be aware because sometimes we do meet parents and the parent is the problem because the parent is the one saying you need to count calories, you need to avoid this food and that food. And I go, like, you're giving your kid a complex at too young an age.
Yeah.
Really, seriously. There's a way to teach them to be healthy without giving them body insecurities, I feel.
Yeah.
Now, second thing I would say parents need to do is they need to let go of the fact that they really can't be everything to their kid, especially not in this day and age. And I think they should go easy on themselves with regards to that and understand that, like, the environment that they're in and the people that are with are maybe the best things you can do is to ensure that they have good people around them. Yeah, because I think sometimes when I meet parents, they feel a lot of pressure and guilt because they feel like they need to control everything and ensure that everything is perfect. But the fact is they can't because you, as much as you would like to be, you are an important influence in your child's life. But the fact of matter is their worldview is shaped by their peers most of the time in social media. So the best thing you can do is to create that space for them and try to find people around them that can safeguard them well.
Yeah.
So I think like sometimes the parents that allow their kids, for example, in our church, right, to be free to be pastor in our church and they don't get jealous about the fact that they do listen to maybe some leaders here or their youth leaders here and instead they leverage it, it becomes the best mix. Because they ensure that 70% of the time their kid is safeguarded and the 30% where they really need, a kid really needs their parent to speak into their lives, they have that as well. And the kid grows up to be both secure and also have a great environment. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to land this section.
Yep.
Yeah. So thanks, Selena, for being here.
Yay, thank you. I learned so much. Goodbye. Bye.
All right. So that was a pretty intense first half. Well,
Yep.
started off not so intense and then we got pretty intense at the end.
Yes.
So now we're going to go on to the second half and talk about that Christian boy in Singapore, 15-year-old Christian boy who got radicalized and tried to plan an attack on 2 mosques here last year, I think in January, is it? But we only found out about him recently in Singapore and he made international news lah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty shocking thing, I think, for the Christian community here. Certainly we were shocked as well. It was just, you never imagined that would happen in Singapore, but it did lah. Yeah. So Straits Times released a great article, which I do encourage everyone to go read. You need a subscription, but it's a really great article.
Yeah.
Written by Chua Mui Hoong, an associate editor at Straits Times. Article is called "Singapore Teen Detained Under ISA: Wake Up Call for Christian Community." Okay, now this article was pretty good. I thought she presented a very balanced view, but she also called on Christians to be more, I guess, sensible about our faith, to not be too conservative right wing, because one of the arguments she made was that we are increasingly becoming like American Christianity, very nationalistic in nature, very exclusive in nature lah. Yeah, which I think she made some really great points, but I know that made a lot of Christians in Singapore pretty angry.
Unhappy.
Okay, but anyway, 2 people she interviewed in this article. One was Miss C. Guat Kui, who wrote a book in 2019 called Christian-Muslim Relations in Singapore from Independence to Post 9/11. And this book was based on Miss C's master's thesis at Hartford Seminary, a well-known institute for advancing Christian-Muslim understanding in the United States. Okay, and so she was quoted as saying, why would we think that Christianity is exempt from extremism in religion? Okay.
Yeah.
And so she said, churches may think that their young are well grounded, but no one drinks from a single well. And the internet is full of places that push certain ideologies that can sound attractive to young people, advocating very bad ideas. Okay, so that was her comment. And then and another person that was interviewed was Mr. Young, Pastor Young. Okay, I won't say his full name. I don't know how that's going to help us, but I won't say his full name. But he made an appearance in our episode 7, Words Matter, because he said some really provocative things that we disagreed with in a Vice article. Well, he makes an appearance again in this Straits Times article as the chairman of the Alliance of Pentecostal and Charismatic Churches in Singapore and a senior pastor of a church in Singapore.
Yes.
Okay, a pretty big church in Singapore. And he said in his church, it will never happen. No youth will ever be radicalized because they have a small group system with a very strong accountability where the leaders have to update the pastors about what's going on in their youth lives. Okay. So he said this, I quote, "It's a nearly perfect accountability system," said Pastor Young with pride. That's why I can say I am almost certain that this would not happen with a young person in my church. Yes, Karis, how do you feel about that?
Okay.
We have pretty bad reaction to this, right? Yeah, because he came off ego in the Vice article, he comes off ego here again.
Yes.
Okay, let me give you my unfiltered response, okay, as a pastor and a leader. I go, you must be super out of touch with reality to be able to say that with so much gusto and confidence. Because let me say, we have a great youth church.
Yeah.
We also have a small group system. We emphasize mentoring in our church. But when the whole situation came out with this Christian youth, our whole leadership team, I mean, it's not saying we felt shocked, but it was very, I think, very affecting to know that this happened in Singapore. You know, and we were like, and it kind of confirmed our worries, as what you hear in this episode, confirmed our worries that there is this larger system that's going on that we need to be brutally honest about. And we were very real that this could have happened in our church. You know, we have a great accountability system, but then youth have this potentially secret life on social media. And it's a very, very real problem that we worry about, not just about sex, but radicalization as well, because it just is a problem. And if you don't think it's a problem as a leader, I really question whether you are in touch with reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my reaction to him. So I love that Straits Times article. Please go and read it. Now, on the flip side, we had so another Christian media outlet in Singapore, whom shall remain nameless, right? Immediately released an article countering this Straits Times article by this lady who was really upset with the Straits Times article and was upset that it targeted Christians and called on Christians to make changes and not be so exclusive. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was basically just upset lah, which Carrie's thought was.
Yeah. Which I thought was very petty.
Very petty.
Yeah, very petty of Christians to be like. I think like what PC says, like this situation is real. Is what's happening overseas and is what can happen in Singapore as well. And I think what we should go about it is what should we do then. But I just feel like when I read the article and all the responses is all about defending about how Christianity is the best and my church is the best and how dare you say this about me. But because I feel like when the Straits Times article was written, it wasn't an attack on Christianity. It wasn't an attack on the churches is not doing a good enough job on educating the youth. It's not all that. But so I don't get the whole defensiveness that Christians in churches needs to.
Yeah. And I think the sad part is I don't think her response is an isolated response. I actually think it is, I can't say it's the dominant response, but I would say it's a significant portion of Christian leadership's response to this whole issue, which is one was a lot of them decided to kind of disown the boy. It's like, he's not really a Christian. This is not really a Christian faith. Now, I agree. It's not really Christianity.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go so far as to disown the guy. I would say this is the fringe of what is possible when our faith goes wrong. Yeah. So number one, they just basically excommunicated a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
15-year-old boy. I can imagine his poor parents, his poor church, how they must be feeling. I just cannot imagine. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know who the church is. I don't know who their parents are, but I really feel for them lah. But the rest of this article, the ending of the article, this was this person's solution. Okay. This is not a quote, but I will summarize for you. Basically, she said, Christians should continue to speak the truth about Christ and not water it down. To combat radicalization, we must be radical in our faith because extreme Christianity will produce people like Jesus who never harmed anyone in their life.
Honestly, I was a bit confused as well. I was confused because I was like, extremism is dangerous. What do you mean, extreme Christianity?
I didn't. Well, I think their response to me, case in point lah. This is Christian exclusivism.
This is the exact behavior.
Exact behavior that leads to really radicalized behavior. Yeah, like the stepping stone towards it lah. Yeah, because what was it? You were quoting to me Miroslav, right?
Yes.
You were reading theologian Miroslav's work, and he said
extremism will lead to violence.
Exclusivism leads to violence. Yeah, but this has been another debate in Singapore recently in the Christian community, right? The refusal to accept that emotional violence is not equivalent to physical violence. So it's very funny because I feel these same people putting out this material are the same people that, for example, think that it's very acceptable, for example, true love is and all those stuff to be very, very like, oh, it's still love. We're not enacting physical violence. We're not attacking anybody physically. So therefore, it's not violence. But I do feel Christianity here is edging towards committing a lot of psychological violence towards people who don't agree with the way we view the world.
Yeah, and like what you say, these are like stepping stones to that possibly.
It's the trickle-down effect again, right? Which is in a youth who's not so mature, who doesn't understand how social media algorithms work.
Yeah.
They're going to assume that that's what you mean when we say Jesus is the only way, the truth, and life, and we must stop everybody who disagrees with that idea.
Yeah.
Whether it's through savvy social media language or through actual physical violence. Yeah. Okay. So anyway.
So that's the first article.
Yeah. Then after that, they released the second article, which was, better because I think the first 2 points the author made was he was encouraging interreligious dialogue, and I think that's great because
Yeah.
I think that is very important that we interact with other faiths and genuinely engage. So I think that's great.
Yes.
But I could also see his confusion in the third point when again he talks about exclusivism, and he said we should think hard about exclusivism. What makes Christian community truly unique? And he says, but not all exclusivist behavior leads to violence. Yeah, which, okay, I can see where he's coming from, but I disagree because I don't think physical violence is the only way Christians enact violence against other people. I think it comes through othering. I think it comes through excluding.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yes. I think when we exclude or we kind of like draw the line of like I'm in, you're out, we are putting ourselves on a pedestal, right? Like we are better. The whole idea of like our religion's better or I am better than you. And that creates a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the thing that annoyed you too, right? Through this whole process of different reactions. You were like, the way people are coming across Christians is that we think that we are better. And then we also think that we are better. Well, that was one of the reasons they got angry with the ST article, right?
Yeah.
Because we feel we're better than white Christians in America.
Yeah, because the article was like they were saying Christians will never do something like that, and Singapore Christianity is better than Western Christianity. I'm just like, wow, that is such a like, whoa, that you're already saying that you are more superior. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. But I don't think we see it. Yeah, I don't think we see it. I will agree that, okay, every religion is unique. We're not exactly the same. We can't be universally the same. But I do think there's a very big difference from coming from a place where your question is it ethical to include instead of saying, is it ethical to exclude? And I think to me, you might say all these fancy language of being loving and let's be radical, like Jesus never hurt anybody. But I don't know why we're becoming so blind to the fact that how we say things is hurting people.
Yeah.
And even the behavior of like your first instinct is to exclude this boy rather than to reflect and go, there's something we need to change about our culture and community that we don't even, it's almost as though I feel like, you know, like I feel like our law minister is trying to rehabilitate this boy and we're trying to like keep away from it. I'm like, oh my God, like the secular government is doing a better job taking care of our own than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We're not going to comment any much further, except to say, we got to change the way we are talking about Christianity, which is what we said through this whole podcast. And secondly, we need to stop being so egotistical and think that our churches and our people and our youth are immune to the larger culture of tribalism and polarization and radicalization on the internet. Because if you are still doing that, you're too far removed from brutal reality already. And that being said, I am positive about young people that they will find their way. But I do think if we're taking that stance, I don't think as leaders we're helping. We're just kind of feeding more of this problem.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's it for today. Hopefully you learned something and we were intelligible.